Are you in the market for one of Seiko's dive watches from the SKX line? Or do you already own one and simply just want to remind yourself of all of its glory? Welcome to Modern Regimen. I'm your friend Chris Flores, and before we proceed, of course, I owe you a customary wristwatch check. And today I am wearing my very own vintage Seiko 5, which I'd love to share with you in the near future. I'd love to know your thoughts on this watch. But for now, I bring to you yet another YouTube video review of Seiko's very own SKX013. Let's do this. Now, for this review, I'll be sharing my own experience of owning the SKX013, and from the time of filming this video, I'd say I've had the watch for close to 4 months now. My initial reaction when I held the watch was that I didn't realize how small a 38mm dive watch would translate to. Now, the thickness is at 13mm, and I love the presence that the height brings in relevance to its 44mm lug-to-lug size. 44mm in my opinion is very lenient when it comes to wearing well on most wrist sizes. And from a design standpoint, these dimensions appropriately accommodate a 20mm lug width, which leaves us with a whole lot of strap and bracelet style options to play around with. One such strap option, of course, is the NATO strap, which is not only adaptable to both casual and semi-formal attire, but it's also functional from a utilitarian or even survivalist standpoint. And while we're on the topic of utilitarianism, the SKX, in my eyes, is the standard base model of what a tool watch should offer. Here's my SKX on Seiko's very own Jubilee bracelet that it came with. I personally enjoy how comfortable it is, but I can see how there's room for improvement in build quality, especially with the hollow end links, but of course that would come at a cost. I've been using an app on my iPhone called Watch Tracker that gauges the watch's accuracy, and so far I'm more than content with it being only -2.3 seconds per day. The Hardlex crystal is still in pristine condition from normal wear so far, with no minor scuffs, scratches, or cracks. I use the bezel quite regularly to time certain tasks for work, as well as for exercise and working out. It's got a satisfying click even after 4 months of regular use. The bezel action becomes more responsive to turning, but still feels robust and reliable. What I love about this watch is its no frills, straight to the point functionality. The dial, along with the handset, is just so easy to read even in the dimmest conditions. The bezel's line, dot, and numeric markings allow for quick timekeeping at a glance. And if you don't already know, the lume pip on the bezel at 12 o'clock is covered by a layer of Hardlex crystal for protection. I love that detail because I rely on that lume marker tremendously when I'm checking the time at night. But of course, whenever you get tremendous value from a watch at a very reasonable price, there's always going to be a trade-off. And here, you can see that I got lucky with this bezel marker lining up with the 12 o'clock chapter ring, as well as the hour marker, where in some cases people have received their watches where the chapter ring is completely off, as well as the bezel not lining up with the hour marker. As a forewarning, I may be nitpicking just a little bit, but in my case, the flaw happens to be at the opposite end where the chapter ring's 30-minute marker is not quite lined up with the center of the 6 o'clock hour marker. And from a design perspective, the chapter ring indices have one job to do, and that's to line up at the very least with the 3, 6, 9, and 12 markers. And if you can't give us that, at least sign the crown, will you, Seiko? Now, I've worn this watch every day for at least a few hours because, for one, I don't own too many watches at the moment, which allows me to actually use all of my watches. But of course, the further down the rabbit hole I go, that will definitely change. And so, to satiate the new watch cravings, fortunately us watch enthusiasts can just buy new straps, which reignites the honeymoon period with our beloved timepieces. The strap you currently see here on my SKX013 is a rally racing strap that, in my opinion, completely revamps the look of the watch. The perforations on the strap just really give it an edge without it being too pretentious. That said, I honestly love the look of this watch so much that I've actually envisioned myself wearing one while driving my dream car, the Shelby Cobra. Now I know it's more of a diver's watch than it is a driver's watch, and it's nowhere near the caliber of a Rolex Daytona or an Omega Speedmaster, and many even consider the 7S26 movement inside the SKX to be outdated in today's horological standards. But that's the same point you can make about the Shelby Cobra in contrast to the sports cars of today. One can't deny that it's simply a classic. The SKX's screw-down case-back design seems to be inspired by the Great Wave of Kanagawa, one of the most treasured works of art in the world by the artist Katsushika Hokusai. And this is the part of my watch that takes the most beating, especially when I'm laying the watch directly on the surface or on any metal bracelets installed onto it. However, I don't really baby my watches too much, so I'm not at all worried about any cosmetic damage, unless of course it's compromising the water resistance. Here it is on a third-party 7-column steel bracelet, which gives the SKX a dressier look than the standard Jubilee it comes with in my opinion. The screw-down crown at 4 o'clock is minimal in design with linear texturing, which I'm okay with. It's easy to use and has survived being submerged in water. The SKX013 has a depth rating of 200 meters and is an official diver's watch based on its ISO certification. And because of that, even though you'll probably never go down to 200 meters, you can rest assured that it can and will withstand any rainstorm while it's on your wrist. I've also read that the watch has anti-magnetic properties to an extent, which ties in with its ISO certification level. However, I can't confirm this personally and was hoping that some of you out there would know the answer to this. If so, please share your knowledge with us in the comments below, it'd be a huge help. I'll most likely be wearing mine when I go on some camping trips this year, probably sometime in the spring, and I'll share my experience with it in the great outdoors. Now, I mentioned the Lumibrite earlier, which is Seiko's very own proprietary lume, and I cannot praise it enough. To tell it like it is, it's pretty much extremely reliable until the sun comes up, literally. In my experience, it charges up even when it's been indoors for days. It's not as good as those tritium tubes in the higher end watches, but it definitely holds its own with no gripes whatsoever. The 7S26 movement found within the SKX line of dive watches, as well as some of the popular known Seiko 5s, one of which many of us know as the SNK line of 37mm field watches, has been known to stand the test of time, and they're known to be robust, fairly accurate within an understandable amount of time. I would say, in my experience, I used to have an SNK 809, and that was always within 10 seconds plus or minus per day. And now with my SKX013, it's outstanding in regards to its accuracy, being under even 5 seconds. As of right now, as I have mentioned, it is minus 2.3 seconds per day. And because of the SKX's history of dependability, it's also amassed a cult following, which also includes the fact that these watches are highly moddable, and there are infinite ways and means to change the look of the watch, as well as go to the extent of changing the movement. Now, some might say that I haven't had this watch long enough for this to be a proper review, and you know what, I actually agree with that. So after the year mark, I'll probably give a follow-up review on my experience with the SKX013. And so for now, my thoughts on the SKX013 after 4 months of continuous use without the power reserve running out. I would say that the watch is a completely practical purchase if you were to embark on your watch collecting journey, or if you were to have a watch, just one watch that you want to rely on a day-to-day basis without having to worry about whether it's dependable, durable, as well as having a history. You have all of those attributes in one watch. It has a history, it has a heritage with it being a Seiko watch, and it's also very dependable as well as inexpensive, meaning that if you use and abuse the watch, it's not so much of a dent in your wallet as opposed to some of the luxury higher end watches that you find out there. If you're not capable of any repair costs that a higher end watch would have, then by all means the SKX013 or even the SKX007 would be the perfect fit for you. So if you're in the SKX tribe, go ahead and show some love in the comments down below. Virtual fist bump. I'm your friend Chris Flores. You've been watching Modern Regimen. Now feel free to check out more videos. Talk to you guys later.